when you're trying to implement something new in the contact center, you often hit multiple roadblocks along the way. And the most common roadblocks are, I think, well, one of them for sure is the culture inside your organization. So I think if the culture is not aligned to the goals you have, like for example, if you're trying to introduce a more customer-centric approach, but the culture inside the organization is just not there to do that, that's more than a roadblock. That's one of those collapsed bridges. That's the end of the road, I think, in a way, unless you are starting a multi-year, let's say, probably a multi-year initiative to turn the organization into a customer-centric organization, which I've seen people do dramatically, even within older industries where that's very, very difficult to do. So it is possible, but then you need to be setting out to do that, right? So if you got that, I think it's broken bridge. The internal roadblocks and the more common ones that occur, assuming that you're generally lined up with the culture, are, I think, one is process understanding. So does your organization, I don't mean you particularly or two people in the organization, but is there a general shared understanding of the processes that are there now and the ones you need to move the dial into the green zone for the initiatives that are important for the company? And I mean, that sounds like kind of obvious in a way, but it's very important, I think, to state it, because it's not common. It's not uncommon that I will talk to an organization and key people within it, and they will need to get a dozen people together to understand a particular process. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit with a dozen, but 8 people together. That's extremely common, where significant elements of what are being discussed as a new initiative are completely unclear unless we also get John on the phone, who's not here now, on the call, who's not here now. And when you do talk to John, he says something completely different to what everybody has been saying so far. I mean, that is so common that you have to wonder, okay, what understanding does this organization have collectively? So across brains, not inside one person's brain, of what the processes are. Massive roadblock, I think. Unless you resolve that, it's very difficult to make a new initiative work. Now, of course, a new initiative can be a driver to make that happen, and I think that's a good thing. So it's not a bad thing you find out that you need that other opinion and it needs to come in, and maybe your initiative is the thing that actually generates the situation where people are sharing knowledge more readily. And if you move on from there and then have those processes properly documented, then I think that helps. And I think the third one is that it's very difficult to understand what is now available, what is the state of the art versus what you have, because the market is very complicated. There are loads and loads of vendors. There are various innovation cycles that you could be buying into. So if your company is generally a late adopter, you'll probably be buying into the late stage of the last innovation cycle, and maybe you should just accept that if that's a fact, right? And then you should say, well, then I'm going to tailor my initiatives to not be bleeding edge, but to be on that kind of it, because I can't get my company to buy anything else. If your company is a bit more agile, then you probably have a good chance of buying into, say, the mid phase of the new innovation cycle, which of course, if you can do that, you're probably preparing your company for the future in a good way. However, there's a lot of vendors who are selling solutions that solve specific problems, and you could easily be buying the one that's not really fitted to your area. So it might be something that solves a really simple problem in a simple way, but your organization needs something that actually is more powerful to handle the processes we just discussed a moment ago. And so sorting that out is not easy, and I think having a discipline inside your team within the CX area or the customer service area or whatever it might be, to actually keep abreast of where the technology really is and which things are in which stage of the innovation cycle. I think it's a very, very useful thing to do. And then you've got a better chance, I think, of getting into the right part of the innovation cycle and the right solution for what you want to do. And I think those are, from my point of view, what I see day in, day out, those are the 3 real things you need to get through.